Good morning, Internet. This is Alan from Woodcrest Bonsai, and today I'm going to work on my bald cypress grove forest planting. So, the history of this grove is that I planted seed last year and I put it in a huge tray, a mud tray. So, if you know what a mud tray is, it's what they mix mortar in. And they make good training pots for large bonsai, or they make good seed beds. So I planted a whole bunch of seed, and then I took this group as a whole group from that seed bed, and I planted it as a group in this. This is actually a Sarah Rayner pot. It's the largest Sarah Rayner pot that I have. I love her work. She's one of my favorite potters. And so then I cut them back, and I cut them back pretty tall, and I probably should have cut them back probably closer into here. Because bald cypress grow very large, and there's definitely a correlation between trees that grow very large and the difficulty in keeping them small. The larger a tree grows naturally, the more difficult it is to keep it really, really small. So as you can see, everything is super healthy, but they're way overgrown. So they're just going to get a cut back. And there's a lot of randomness because the seed just came up by themselves. I didn't really place anything here. This is just the way they came out of the seed bed, which really makes for a much more natural looking group. And this is the front. I'm going to have to bring it a little closer to get the turntable all the way around. So, no weeds. And this is the back, although this could be the front. No one would know one way or the other, actually. But anyway, I've chosen this for the front. So now typically in a grove, you have one main tree, and then the rest are subordinate to it. And typically the main tree should be a third of the way from one side of the pot, 2/3 of the way from the other. So somewhere in here, so this guy here. Excuse me. So, because this is such a random planting, there really isn't a truly main tree. Although I guess if we part the waters, this guy is probably it. Even though the apex is much, much shorter than all the rest of them around it. So that's what I'm going to do today, is I'm going to cut off virtually all of this excess growth. So here I did the first chop on this one, right there. And then it's grown at least as long as the chop. So there's probably 8 inches of old trunk and 8 inches of new growth all the way past where the camera's even going. And because this tree's on the outside, I'm going to take it to this little guy. So I'm going to take off, like I did with my dome planting, I'm going to take off not just the leader, but a little piece of the old trunk. So that was the original cut. And I could have just taken this guy to like here. Imagine it's still attached. I could have just taken this guy to like there and then grown it from there. But I decided to go to a smaller leader. And then it's going to get cut too. And that's going to be pretty much the story on all of this. I'm going to cut that guy off from here. And then shorten that leader. I may also shorten some of the leaves. young bald cypress grow very conical. So here's another perfect example of one where the main leader is actually much further down. So I'm going to cut to there, but then shorten this guy tremendously. And I already did that one. Here's another one that can be cut much further down. So instead of, let me pull some leaves away here. Instead of this old cut and we've got a nice leader, we have this leader right here. So I'm going to take it down to right there and then shorten him accordingly. And we have some real tiny little babies too. And they're all the same age, but you know, there's always a certain amount of variability in seedlings, just like there's a certain amount of variability in just about anything. I mean, humans, right? I have a friend who's never weighed more than 100 pounds in her whole life. And then we have, NFL linemen that weigh 350 pounds and are 6'8". So, okay, so what do we do with this one here? A whole bunch of new growth, and I think I'm going to go to right there. And then cut him way back, and then reduce the leader. And so this is going to be the process. Here's another one that has grown a really nice leader from even 1.5 inches below the original cut. So I'm going to take it down to there, and then shorten him. Here's another one that needs to be shortened. Did this guy ever get cut? I guess he did, but it's way, way, way up here. So I think I'm just going to give him a chop. Like that. And there is no leader, but it'll come. So I think I'll wait on the interior because I want to try to determine which tree I want as my main tree. So here's another one that was just cut way too tall. I just cut these too tall. So I'm going to chop this guy way down. And there's another one here that I'm also going to chop way down. This is a quite substantial tree, but I don't think it's going to be the main tree. The main tree is this one right here. Because it's certainly in fantastic position. Plus it's also one of the thickest, even though it's not one of the most aggressive growers. So I guess we can just continue from here. This is another one that really has so much excess growth up here. But I think it really needs to be taken down. So, I make the joke that you cannot make a mistake in bonsai. You just increase the amount of time before it's a finished tree. And so I have to admit that the height that I left these guys when I did the first cut, it was just too much. It was too tall. So same with this guy. I'm going to just really take it way back. Where were we? Over here. This is another one that's just so tall that we're going to cut it, the whole thing off. I still want to make sure I don't chop my main tree. Okay, there's my main tree. Okay, yell if you see me chopping the main tree. Main tree on this side is way up there, so just take these guys off. Take them down. And of course you can say, well, man, that's like starting over. But that's what it needs. Because these guys are just going to, in another month or two, they'll be right back up to height they are now. And then typically your main tree is the tallest, and then everything else is going to come down from there. So we're going to take this guy down more. And this guy can come into about there. And this guy to about there. This guy to about there. This is a much smaller tree. It's sort of in the middle, so I'm going to give it a little more height so it doesn't get outcompeted. Because the thin trees, the smaller trees really create a lot more naturalness. If every single tree is the same thickness, then the naturalness sort of fades. So here's another one. I'm going to cut to right there. And here's a larger tree, but it was cut down pretty well. So I'm going to shorten that and then take the other leaders off. We're getting there. Okay. There's our main tree, so we've got a few more that need to come down pretty hard. This is another one where I can take off the top leader and leave that leader shortened tremendously, but here's another one that probably just needs to go down some more too. Just take off the entire top. Another couple. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make the cut so that the branches all move. The leaders on this side will be going this way, and the leaders on this side will be going this way. I mean, it won't be that drastic, but I'm trying to get the leaders on the outside trees to be moving to the outside. Okay. There's another one that we can go a little further down. Oops. And another one. Okay, so that's a lot better. And then we've got the main tree. And I think I'm going to take the main tree to right here. And then shorten him to like that. So what have we got here? This guy is still too tall. So I'm going to take him down even more. And the way I'm looking at things, I think I'm going to take a lot of these down, a little more too. Another inch or so for all these guys here. less for these guys. Trying to create that gentle slope from the main tree down. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If it's exactly perfect, then it doesn't look natural either. So and it's really quite amazing when you think about it that these are only year-old seedlings. You know, they were planted in January of 2024, so now we're talking, you know, it's now April, so, you know, a year and a third. And we have a lot of leaves that have elongated. And in a perfect world, each tree would have its own little conical shape. And since they're so close together, that may not be possible. And that conical shape will probably need to be achieved once they go dormant next year. Then I can take, because see, these guys, these leaves here are still, a lot of them are still growing out of the tip. So they will continue to elongate. So obviously, if you want a conical tree, you want these higher leaves to be much shorter to come into more of a conical shape. But at this stage, that's pretty difficult to really see what's going on. So that's pretty good, I think. I'm pretty happy with that. So I took a lot of the old growth, like, you know, this guy here, took a lot of that older growth off, but it doesn't really seem to detract. So here's some of the deepest cuts I made. So here's one here where the cut is way up here. And this one here, I mean, look at the growth on this thing. Just so healthy. So, and now they're going to just, start again. Some still have a little bit of a leader. But even the ones that I cut down, where we really didn't even choose a leader, but you see these leaves there will be a leader that will pop from where those leaves emerge from the trunk and come up. So that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. When I look in the viewfinder, which one is it? Is it this guy? It is this guy. That one still looks too tall to me. So there we go. And this is interesting soil because I planted numerous trays of bald cypress seed last winter. Let me see if I can remember. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 5 different trays. And 3 of them were mud trays. One was a circular pot that was cut way down. And then the other one was my bald cypress dome, which is a mica pot, 30-inch mica pot. And I got great germination on all of them. So if we look, here's what here's what I cut off, which is quite a bit. But the grove will be better for it. There's no question about that. And then I predict that it won't be more than about a month, and we'll be doing it again. And again, and again, and again. And of course, that's what bonsai is. Once you've created the vision that you want, then you have to maintain that vision. And depending on where you live, and depending on how quickly things grow, that maintenance can be very regular. And for me, since I'm in zone 10, very mild climate. A lot of rain, very warm in the summertime. There will be a lot of maintenance on this guy. Another interesting thing, last year when I planted the seed, I just let them all grow. I did not chop anything back last year at all. I just let them all grow, and some of them got to be almost 3 feet tall. That's how we get trunks as thick. Just let them grow like crazy. So I'm really enjoying this grove. I love the naturalness of it. I love the randomness of the way the seeds germinated just all by themselves, where I didn't place really anything on this. And it's interesting because the mud tray obviously is a rectangle, but this group was kind of skewed at an angle in the tray. So it wasn't like I took a group that was perfectly aligned with the tray. It was actually skewed more like that. And then of course I put it in this pot. And the soil is very, very sandy. This is almost garden soil. And I would never even consider growing anything other than bald cypress in this kind of soil. But bald cypress is a tough plant, especially when it comes to being able to tolerate soil that has very little airspace. That's what they say. There's really actually no definitive answer, but the theory is that's why bald cypress produce knees. They call them nematophores, so that in very, very swampy conditions, because bald cypress can actually live inundated with water where the roots are not getting any atmospheric oxygen into the soil at all. And the knees, it's postulated, provide some oxygen exchange with the air, keep the trees alive. And some of these have some funky little root systems. Some of them have some roots, they were like buried to there. So this whole thing is kind of raised up from where it was in the seed bed. So there we go. Let's spin it around. See if there's anything else I need to do or want to do. I think that looks pretty good. Weeds are, constant, like anything. If we could only make a bonsai soil that doesn't get weeds, yeah, you'd be a billionaire. People would be buying it up. I want some of that. Anyway, there we go. Bald cypress grove. And I differentiate this from my larger planting, which I call a bald cypress dome. So this is my grove forest planting. And then I have the dome. And I'll leave the playlist for both of these guys at the end of this video. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button. And then when you hit the notification bell, you can watch the continued development of this guy. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I love the naturalness of this thing. I think it's going to be, well, already I'm having fun. It's just been a really fun project, even with only just a year's worth of growth. So that's it for today, for this video. So thank you so much for watching Woodcrest Bonsai.